What is up, side hustlers, entrepreneurs, business builders, and dream makers? Welcome to the Saturday Side Hustle Podcast, episode 76. Great to be back in your earbuds once again, as we are every single day of the work week. Today is a glorious Wednesday if you're listening in real time, and I am so glad to be here. Today, I want to talk about something that just came up in a one-on-one coaching call that I had with a client, and I just think that the practical, what I talk through, could be helpful for you guys. So, today we're going to talk all about why identifying your clear, specific target market is so important. If you're marketing to everybody, then in reality, you're marketing to nobody, right? Who you're marketing to should have a huge impact on what you're actually saying. So we're going to start with what I call the basic information about them. We're going to talk about how old they are. We're going to talk about their family status. We're going to talk about where they live, geographically speaking. We're going to talk about what their income level is, and we're going to talk about their education level, and how all of those things can have a huge impact on how you speak to them, how you talk to them. So, number one, how old are they? I'm going to use some extreme examples to point out how this is important. Basically, simplify it. How I talk to an 18-year-old is different than how I talk to a 30-year-old. But let me give you some context. Let's imagine that we're talking to either somebody who's in their 30s or somebody who is in their 60s. Okay. If you're in your 30s, then you are career oriented, right? You are building your family and you're building your career. That's the stage of life that you're in. If I were to market to somebody who is in their 30s, the kind of things I would probably talk about would be about the reality that everybody who's in their early 30s feels like they're supposed to be more established than they are, and they feel a slight amount of shame and embarrassment around the fact that they're not more established than they are. Or in some rare cases, but that's the majority hold, or in some rare cases, they're doing better than their peers, so they feel really good about where they are, and they do feel like their life is established and they figure things out. Either way, that's radically different than how we talk to somebody who's in their 60s, somebody who's an empty nester who is at a point in their life where they don't care how well established their life is anymore. They don't care about worldly success, but what they probably do care about as an empty nester is staying connected to their family, staying in good relationship without they probably feel lonely. They probably miss their children. They probably wish they were to see their grandchildren more. That's probably the stage of life they're in. Those are probably the things that they're concerned about. See how old somebody is has a huge impact on what they actually care about. That's why we want to nail down what age we're working with. And we want to be as specific as possible. I think that we should go in decade stints. Working with an 18 to a 25-year-old is a reasonable age group. Working with a 20 to a 30-year-old is a reasonable age group. Working with a 20 to a 60-year-old is not reasonable, and working with a 20-year-old to a 40-year-old is not reasonable. Because the other side of it is how old somebody is changes how they use language. Slang terms tend to stick with specific generations. So somebody who's currently 27 will probably use different language than somebody who's currently 22. And so you want to make sure that you're not using language that alienates your target audience. Therefore, you pick a specific age group, you learn what the language is of that demographic, and then you use that language in your marketing. 2, what's their family status? So if somebody is single, what they care about is dramatically different than somebody who's married with kids. If somebody is single, no matter what you're selling, one of the things they're concerned about is relationships. They're concerned about the fact that they're single. They would like to be in a relationship. They would like to get married. They would like to have kids one day. Those are things that matter to them. Now, as a marketer, I'm talking about generalities here because that's what we have to do. People who are single generally would like to not be single. There's exceptions. And if you're in the dating space, you might specifically be targeting people who are single because you want to teach them how to be players. But generally speaking, people who are single are looking to not be single. So that's the type of language you'd like to talk about. People who are married, who are not single, care about different things. They might care more about the idea of having children because they don't have children yet. Or if they do have children, they might care more about how what they do impacts their children. So their relationship status has a huge impact on how you talk to them. 3, income level. Income level makes a huge impact on how you talk to them about money. And at the end of the day, because you're in business, you're going to be selling something, you're going to be talking about money. And if somebody is making $30,000 a year, then any purchase, no matter how large it is bigger to them than if somebody is making $130,000 a year. So knowing their income level helps you understand how you should communicate to them about the pricing of whatever you sell. And lastly, level of education. This is a huge deal. If somebody has average level of education, which means they graduated from high school, maybe they got an undergraduate degree, then the general rule in marketing is that all of your language should speak to a 5th grade reading level. That is the average reading level of adults who graduated from high school and or graduated with an undergraduate degree. Why is that? Because those are people who simply got a degree, whether it was the high school diploma or the associate's degree or the bachelor's degree, to get a job. They're career-oriented people, and therefore they're not academics, they're not intellectuals by nature, but they're boots to the ground to earth type people who are going to talk with simple language, and you want to talk to them in the language that they use. So if your target market happens to have graduate degrees, they have masters or PhDs, then you want to talk to them with elevated language. You want to talk to them with more technical language because they are academics. They've identified themselves as intellectuals, as the type of people who care about vocabulary. And therefore, you talk to them in their language and you use an elevated vocabulary when communicating with them. So again, their education level changes how you should talk to them. And this is why everything about our client avatar is so crucial. This is why we start with our client avatar in mind, because every detail of our client avatar modifies the language we use when communicating to them. And the better we can communicate to them as if we're one of them, and as we understand exactly where they're at, the more likely they are to know, like, and trust us, which makes them more likely to be willing to give us their money in exchange for our product, good, or service. That's what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much. I'll be back in your earbuds again tomorrow. God bless.